Should you shell out hundreds of dollars for bottles like this, spend your time hunting allocated whiskey, or is there an alternative? Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Hutch. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the world of whiskey. So today is going to be a fun format for a video. It's actually courtesy of Brandon over at the Whiskey Weather channel. I saw him do a video that was similar to this format. Wanted to take a stab for myself and see from my own collection, my own experience, what I would say if asked this question, essentially. So the format is very simple. I'm going to talk through 5 allocated, harder to find bourbons that I think are maybe a little bit overrated, or I struggle a little bit with their price point, things like that, or their consistency isn't great year after year. So that's sort of the allocated process. But then for each bottle, I'm going to give you one alternative that I think is a strong contender. You know, you don't have to spend so much money and so much time going out to get these, and they're still really, really good whiskey. So let's dive into it. Let's start talking about some allocated whiskeys and perhaps their alternatives. So first is a bottle that's become a lot more available over time, but still has a lot of lingering hype. I'm not sure it deserves it, and that is Henry McKenna 10-year-old bottled in bond. For me, the problem isn't that this whiskey can't be good. The problem is that it's sometimes not good, and my bottle in particular is not very good. And that's a shame. It's been fluctuating in terms of price. I used to see this very sparingly, and when I did, it was somewhere between $75 to $100. Now I'm starting to see it a lot more for around $50 to $70. So that still feels relatively fair, especially for something that's 10 years old. Used to be a $30 to $40 bottle. And so as the hype train grew, people started hunting this, became harder to find. Let's talk about an alternative that I think is actually just flat out better, which is Russell's Reserve Single Barrel. Now, this is higher proof. You're looking at 100 proof because the McKenna's bottle and bond, and the Russell's Reserve is 110 proof. So you do step it up in terms of proof point. But age-wise, these are usually between 8 and 9 years old, so comparable to the 10-year-old McKenna. For me, this is just so much better. It's got brown sugar, cherry, oak, even a touch of chocolate, such depth to it. It's just a great whiskey for around, these days it's more in the $80 to $90 range, although if you know certain spots where it's still in that $65 range, that's where it's a real steal. So yes, I think it even might be a little bit more expensive than the McKenna these days, but if you're looking for quality whiskey, something single barrel, something attractive, a little bit, older, closer to that 10-year mark, the Russell's Reserve, if you ask me, way better than the Henry McKenna 10. All right, let's move on to bottle number 2 and its alternative. This takes us into the world of wheat profiles. I don't really understand why this one's hard to find and why it's so hyped up, but it is. 1792 Sweet Wheat. It's supposed to be a $50 bottle. Used to be cheaper than that. Now, difficult to find. I've seen it marked up in a lot of places to $100, $120. Still continues to have a hype train around it. What it really is 1792, their wheated profile, their wheated mash bill. I don't know how old it is. We don't know. It doesn't say on here. I don't think it's that old in particular, so we're not really attracted to the age. We're just basically saying this is different for 1792, and so sometimes we'll pay $120 for it and make it really difficult to find, which feels weird to me. It's sweet, it's solid, it's not bad whiskey. I don't think any of these allocated bottles are necessarily always bad whiskey. This one's pretty solid, but I think there's better options for cheaper that are always available. So my alternative is the Bardstown Origin Series High Wheat mash bill here. So this is delicious stuff for $50, available pretty much anywhere nationwide at this point. It's similar in terms of the amount of wheat presence that you'll get from both of these, but the Bardstown's better. It just is. It's richer, more citrus pop and berry pop, and just a lot of complexity in this bottle here. The Sweet Wheat to me tastes like Wheaties. It tastes just like a wheat presence to it, and that's fine. but the Bardstown is better, more available. MSRP is the same essentially, and so if you have a choice, don't necessarily waste all your time going after the 1792 sweet wheat. Just go get yourself a Bardstown Origin Series high wheat and you'll be very happy. All right, so bottle number 3 moves us into the territory of truly that tater bottle, the most famous allocated whiskey of them all, that I think is just not all that special, to be honest with you, which is Blanton's. We've got Blanton's here, $70-ish bottle MSRP. Gets marked up still to $100 plus, although becoming slightly more available over time as Buffalo Trace kind of catches up to demand. Yet the hype train still exists around this, and people still think it's like the ultimate unicorn bottle in all of bourbon. And if you want to add one to your collection, I felt that need too. I think they're solid options. I have 2. This one in particular, the first one I got, not very good. The second one I got, pretty good. But there's that question of consistency. There's that question of, is it really worth all this hype? And for me, there's an easy alternative. There's a few alternatives, but my favorite is James E. Pepper Barrel Proof. So again, we are stepping it up in proof, just like we did with the Russells, which adds the flavor. Maybe not the most fair comparison, but why I think this is comparable is, 1, the bottle and the presentation. Beautiful decanter, rivals the cool presentation of Blanton's, right? This bottle, though, is what I wish Blanton's was. A little bit proofier, obviously, but tons of like white grape, citrus, beautiful oak and spice on this thing for $65, essentially the same MSRP, if not a little bit cheaper, and far more available. You can get yourself a James E. Pepper Barrel Proof and be, I think, a much happier camper than spending a lot of time trying to hunt down a Blanton's. I think the only thing Blanton's has over the James E. Pepper at this point is just the status symbol, but the James E. Pepper is the better whiskey. Okay, so bottle number 4 gets us into one that's a hit or miss release. Some can be great, some are not so great, and I think there's a more steady alternative. So let's talk about the bottle first. Booker's. Now, again, I think there are batches of Booker's that are great. This is Charlie's batch, the first batch from 2023. I think it's really, really good. It's done very well in blinds for me. I do not regret spending the 100, I think maybe $120 on this bottle of Booker's. My dilemma is they're not that old, in the 6 to 7 year old range. They tend to vary a lot in terms of quality. Over the course of the year, you might get a batch that's terrible and then get a batch that's great. It's just hard to know when to pull the trigger. And the price point is pretty high these days at $100, and often marked up to $120, $130, $140, certainly for certain batches. Now, within the same umbrella of Jim Beam, there's a steady alternative, which is Knob Creek single barrels. I mean, if you want something full force, spicy, in-your-face whiskey, kind of like Booker's is known for being, these are 120 proof. They're usually in that 9-year-old range, so older than the Booker's. Some you can get older than that. And if you want to play the game of trying to find the best possible single barrel, it's fun to do that with the Knob Creeks, that's for sure. This profile is similar to the Booker's, but honestly has a little bit more like of a caramel richness to it for me. And again, far more available. And the big kicker is here, while the Booker's is $100 plus, the Knob Creek single barrels you can still find for $55. So when it comes to making that decision, which Jim Beam profile, which Jim Beam release do I want to go after, you could have a lot of fun going after the Knob Creek single barrels and really trying to find the best store picks of that. And then maybe be a little bit more sparing on the Booker's. I've sort of taken the approach of waiting throughout the year to see which ones get the best reviews and maybe buying one per year, but not feeling the need to go out and get each batch of Booker's, knowing that they're not all going to be, living up to the hype. So I think the Knob Creek single barrel is a great alternative. Okay, so before we get into our final bottle, the biggest kahuna on this list, I do want to say, if you're enjoying all the content coming out of the channel, Bourbon Hutch, if you've learned anything, found anything useful, had a little bit of fun watching the channel, the new rule is you gotta subscribe. So we're trying to reach 4,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. The original goal was 5,000, but we're getting pretty close to 4,000. I feel like we can reach it. So if you could help us get there, that would be awesome. While you're at it, hit the like button on this video. That's what gets it out to the most people. And then I do want to hear in the comments below, what are maybe some allocated bottles that you feel like there's a strong alternative that people are overlooking, or one that you found like, hey, if I just go grab this bottle instead of chasing the allocated one, I actually end up with more money in my wallet and a better whiskey. Okay, last bottle. This one's interesting because I think the allocated bottle, a Big Kahuna, is actually really, really good whiskey. Again, it's a little fluctuates year after year how good it is. And I just think it's so hard to find that the alternative is a little bit more fun to explore at times. So let's get into it. Four Roses limited edition small batch is our allocated bottle. This is now upwards of $200. I think it's up to like $230 MSRP. That's the biggest point on here, which is just how expensive it is. Then the other thing is how dang hard it is to find. I was able to get this at the distillery during the Kentucky Bourbon Festival last year, lined up, super early in the morning, and got lucky enough that they had enough bottles. But in general, there's lotteries for this. It's very, very difficult to find, and you could spend a lot of energy. And then you could go on secondary and spend $400, $500 plus dollars to get a bottle like this. The funny thing is, Four Roses itself has plenty of alternatives for you to explore in the meantime, like the Four Roses single barrels, the new ones that they've released at 100 proof. This is the OESO, probably my favorite from 2025. It's 100 proof, which makes it a lot more accessible to people. These are going to become more widely available. They're going to do all 10 recipes at this more available price point of $50. So I find this one really delicious, really pleasant, super crowd pleasing. It is not better than the Four Roses LE, that's for sure. This thing is very, very good. The question becomes, almost 4 times, maybe 5 times better than this single barrel? I don't know. If I had 5 of the recipes and I was halfway to the 10 and I got to explore all of them and compare them, I might be having just as much fun as just cracking open one Four Roses LE and tasting it. So again, not a case where the whiskey itself is bad, but a case where the alternative is so much more affordable and available that you might be able to have a little bit more fun and explore a lot more if you don't spend all your energy trying to get this big white whale for so many people. The other thing is the limited editions do tend to, again, fluctuate in terms of quality. So I have the 2024 and it's solid, but it's not knock your socks off whiskey. Some can be, at least as I've heard, but when you consider all that and the price, the alternative is pretty attractive. All right, everybody, that's gonna do it. 5 bottles, 5 allocated whiskeys. Some I don't think are that great. Some I actually think are very good whiskey, but then exploring an alternative that I think is a little bit more affordable, easier to find, or in some cases just so much better whiskey that it justifies going out and getting that alternative instead. Would love to know in the comments below, again, what you think about my list now that you've seen it, and then also bottles you consider maybe a little bit overrated and an alternative to that bottle. Till I see you guys again for another video, all I can say is keep drinking good whiskey, make good choices out there. Hopefully you're finding bottles you love, and cheers.